area, and it's going to encroach into wetlands. And knowing CEQA process somewhat, that going through the CEQA process, this might be your only option as a roundabout. Because the first thing you look at is to avoid any kind of impact. Second thing you do is try to minimize it, and then if you can't minimize it, the impacts, you have to mitigate. And there's already an avoidance alternative out there, so that might be the only thing you're talking about. That might be new information to you, but
It's not new information to me, but it also encroaches on far less private property. Far fewer parcels are impacted than the stoplight. But that's to the option phase. But I didn't hear you say anything that said that the county share was going to go away. In other words, yes, part of it could be delayed and be extended, but I don't think that the county share component's going to go away.
I don't think the county share, I mean, you may be able to negotiate a different county share, but I would think that if it went into a different type of project, the kind of things that Caltrans, the components that Caltrans would ordinarily pick up would be out there for your sharing as well.
Right.
So I'm not sure you're going to get a better deal, and I know
Right.
it's a large expense at this point.
Right.
But I do believe that the project may be delayed somewhat by the lack of your coming up with a share at this time.
Right.
But I believe that if you indicate somehow that you're still interested in pursuing it, that it will be available next year.
Well, and I think that was Supervisor Colfax's point. We obviously can't, with this allotment, commit fully to it anyway. But the point is that we need to commit, and that Caltrans needs to see our commitment. And I think the coastal residents do as well. So I think it's important that we step up and take that initial commitment with respect to X amount, so we are in the game. And if we don't do that, I have concerns about the project. So I think that you've addressed those issues, and I think Supervisor Colfax proposed something that attempts to do that. Thank you.
Supervisor Pinches?
You want to go to the public first?
I will be, but your panel's up.
No.
Okay. Okay, I'd invite public comment at this time on this issue. The distribution of the 0809 Proposition 1B funding. Is there any members of the public wishing to speak to this item? Ma'am, are you wishing to speak to this item? Okay, all right. Please step forward to the podium, state your name for the record.
Barbara Reed. I live over in Mendocino. I'm opposed to the roundabout. I would like to see a stop sign, if anything. This roundabout thing is going to cause us accidents. People are going to be confused. I just think the roundabout's not the way to go. Thank you.
Okay. And I believe, Ms. Reed, you had submitted this one with no name on it, is that correct? Okay, there's one, Paul Clark, and there's one with no name, so, okay.
My name is Paul Clark, Chairman, Supervisors. I hadn't intended to speak on this, but I know more people in the community are dead set against the roundabout, and I'd like to remind Caltrans there was several hundred of us that fought tooth and nail to get Noyo Bridge through the California Coastal Commission for approval, and I think the roundabout should be the absolute last choice. They could find some land somewhere, set it aside as a mitigating factor for the wetlands. It's just not the right choice. There's many businesses that are already concerned about their future right on that intersection, and I just hope that the supervisors back up the community. We want a stoplight, not a roundabout. Thank you.
Okay, and Kathleen Johnson, please.
The residents of Fort Bragg, and I'm completely opposed to a roundabout, having lived in cities where they have them. And basically, that's my objection. The last one I saw was 6 years ago. They put it in, and then within 4 months, they had 5 fatalities. They left it in for another 2 years and finally removed it. And I'm afraid that's what's going to happen on Highway 1, because I know the drivers of Highway 1. and they are not very cautious drivers. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Right, Mr. Raitt, you wishing to speak to, if you could hold your hand up so I can, you're wishing to speak to the Manning project? Correct. Okay, thank you. Just to confirm that. Any others wishing to speak to this item? Okay, seeing no one step forward, Supervisor Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, fortunately, today, we're not having to look at the options for the Fort Bragg light/roundabout issue at Simpson Lane. Luckily, that's not something that we have to do. That process is being handled by Caltrans. It's being looked at by technical review people. They've had some public input, and I believe that the comment period is still open. Hopefully, those that spoke today submitted written comments to Caltrans on their concerns. And I've received a number of copies of those, certainly not all of them, but I know Caltrans is busily looking at the public input, both pro and con, basically on the roundabout. Some people like it, and other people are very, very strongly opposed to it. So my concern right now is that the county just makes a commitment that we need traffic control at Simpson Lane. There are so many documented accidents there, including a number of fatalities over the last 3 years. I think it's important that we commit to the project. The specifics have still yet to be decided, luckily. Thank you.
Supervisor Pinches?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that
Thank you, Supervisor.
I think it's time here. I'd like to make a motion that we allocate this $300,000 to the chip seal and overlay program and leave the $104,000 basically, I guess, into a reserve if it will help for the Potter Valley right-of-way acquisition, if it'll move that process, or more than that, maybe if we can leave it a little bit flexible for whatever would come up. But to designate it for the Simpson Lane project would be a mistake. From the first reason is Caltrans is requesting anywhere from $1 million to $1.3 million in county match, and we don't. If we took of all of the chip seal money and put into that, it wouldn't meet what they're requesting. So, but anyways, to reiterate my motion, if we put $300,000 into chip seal and overlay program and had Department of Transportation basically allocate the $104,000, whether it's the Potter Valley right-of-way or whatever comes up first that's needed. But it's important to get this money out there and used, especially the chip seal program, because with the price of oil decreasing 50%, if we take advantage of that this spring and summer, it's going to give us a lot more miles of chip seal road, probably another 20% more mileage to do just because of the low price of oil. So it's important to get the bulk of that money out there. And if the money's available, whether it's the East Side Potter Valley Road project, to get that project more along, because, there are